Hello and welcome to this special interview about Buckeye basketball. We're going to be talking about the Ohio State Hoops team as we enter into a kind of a crunch time. And to my left, in front of me, if you will, is Mr. Tim Shoemaker, the basketball beat writer for 11warriors.com. Tim, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a little cold out there. We're glad you made it. There are classes today at Ohio State, so we all know about that. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about this Ohio State basketball team. We were actually talking about some of the, you tend to talk about the same things, but I want to get your general outlook as to what's going to happen the rest of the way and what's gone on thus far for this team. So I just want your general outlook on the team at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of been an up and down year for Ohio State. They started off the non-conference slate doing quite well, but lost their two biggest games in the non-conference, and then struggled a little bit once they got to the beginning of Big Ten play, but kind of seemed to be hitting their stride a little bit over the past month or two, and a tough loss in their last game out against Michigan State. They had won 4 out of 5 before that game, and now with only 5 games left in the regular season, it kind of seems that it's kind of flown by, and it's kind of not been, with football season going into the middle of January, it's kind of like basketball, where did basketball season even go? But yeah, Ohio State is right in the thick of it right now in the Big Ten for that number 2 spot right behind Wisconsin, which is leading the league. And they've got 5 games left, like I said, a pretty manageable schedule, and they should be they're in prime position right now to make a run here as we head to March and head to the Big Ten tournament, and then obviously the NCAA tournament.
Well, you led me into my next question, which is, what do they have to do to win the Big Ten? Maybe not the tournament, because I think the tournament anything could happen, but the regular season Big Ten title.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult. Wisconsin right now is sitting atop with only 1 league loss, and Ohio State has 5. So 4 back with 5 to go is a pretty tall task, and I'm not sure that that's something that's achievable. But definitely finishing second is something they should set their sights on right now. And there's a group of teams who are sitting there with 4 losses, 1 game ahead of Ohio State. There's Maryland, Purdue, and Michigan State, and then there's Ohio State is right there with Indiana right behind them, and Iowa and Illinois are right behind them. So it's kind of just a really big battle for that number 2 spot behind Wisconsin. But to catch Wisconsin, they've just been so good all year and so consistent all season, and they've only lost twice all season, and once when they were fully healthy. And right now, I think it would be in Ohio State's best interest to try and get up to that number 2 or 3 spot in the league and go into the Big Ten tournament and get on the opposite side of Wisconsin in the tournament bracket, and then shoot for a Big Ten tournament title, because that's definitely something that's achievable right now. I think that's more realistic goal than perhaps winning the league title in the regular season.
First of all, do you see them winning the Big Ten tournament? And if they don't, where do you see them ending up in the NCAA tournament in terms of their seeding?
It's hard to see them predict winning the Big Ten tournament right now, just because you don't know where they're going to be. And the Big Ten right now, teams 2 through 8 are so evenly matched that it really falls on who draws who and who gets seeded where. And I think if Ohio State winds up in that 2 or 3 spot and can be on the opposite side of the bracket of Wisconsin, they've got a real shot to win, because they'll be favored to come out of their half of the bracket probably, and Wisconsin will be favored to come out of theirs, but they could get upset just as easy as anybody else in a 1-game scenario like that. So winning the Big Ten tournament is definitely a possibility. If they do that, that'll definitely help their seeding time come NCAA tournament selections show. Right now, I've seen them mostly in the 7 to 8 seed range, which is not necessarily a line you want to be on. You got a tough first round matchup, and then in the second round, you're getting a 1 or a 2 seed right there. So if they can find a way to maybe jump up to that 6, maybe possibly even 5 seed, that would certainly benefit them. A win in the Big Ten tournament, I think, would definitely catapult them, especially because I think they're going to close the regular season strong, being that they have a favorable schedule. So, winning the Big Ten tournament, they could probably jump up to a 6 or a 5 seed.
So if they say they don't win the Big Ten tournament and they end up in the 7 and 8 range in the NCAA tournament, can they ride D'Angelo Russell to the final? I mean, I was thinking the other day that a guy like Kemba Walker kind of single-handedly took UConn to a title. Can a guy like D'Angelo Russell do that for this Ohio State team?
Well, if there's a player in the country who's on not one of the top teams in the country that can do that, it's probably D'Angelo Russell. And I mean, you mentioned Kemba Walker, and we've seen it a few times where one player gets hot in a tournament setting and he kind of just carries his team on a Final Four run. It happened last year even with UConn. With Shabazz Napier was the best player in the NCAA tournament, and UConn was a borderline top 25 team all season. Just like Ohio State has been. And if the matchups are right, and you get that guy who's hot, and you can ride him all the way to a Final Four for sure. It's really hard to predict that now, without seeing the bracket, without seeing who Ohio State would have to face. But he's certainly that kind of player. D'Angelo Russell is, and he's fun to watch. He's electrifying, and he's certainly put Ohio State on his back a few times this season and carried them to wins. So, who knows? That's the beauty of the NCAA tournament and the one and done scenario, where if you win, you go on. If you lose, you're done. And any team can really beat anyone on any given night. And a lot of times when you have the best player on the floor, which will usually be D'Angelo Russell, you've always got a shot. So.
Finally, we talked a lot about D'Angelo Russell, but obviously there are a lot of other guys in this team. If you had to pick one guy for Ohio State to make a strong push to the end, outside of D'Angelo Russell, who needs to step up, who needs to start playing well, who would it be and why?
I think that guy has to be, I think it's a combination actually, but they need production from Mark Loving. He's the second leading scorer on the team right now and one of the best three-point shooters in the country. And his floor spacing, his ability to space the floor and knock down open shots really makes the game easier for D'Angelo Russell and the rest of Ohio State's offense. So I think he's got to step in and be that consistent number 2 scorer. But I also think Ohio State needs consistent production from Sam Thompson and Shannon Scott, the 2 seniors who see a bulk of the minutes. They've kind of had up and down careers throughout their time here at Ohio State, and I think those 2 guys really need to play with consistent. And they've been there before. They've experienced March and all that comes with the NCAA tournament. And most of Ohio State's team, their key contributors are freshmen and haven't really played in many tournament and haven't played in the tournament yet. And Sam Thompson and Shannon Scott were on a Final Four team. They were on an Elite 8 team. Last year's team lost in the second round to Dayton, but they've played deep into March before, and I think they're going to need that leadership as well as they're going to need them to play well too. So I think those guys can definitely lead Ohio State.
And there's been no further update to Mark Loving. I mean, he's just playing normally right now. We still don't have an idea of what happened to him. I mean, is there anything else from you that you might know that we might not?
No, not really. I mean, they've kept it kind of quiet. He was out he did his little 3-game suspension there, and he came back and played only I think 5 minutes against Michigan State. So I think he's trying to get his game legs back under him, and he had been practicing with the team, and he certainly was a key part before he went out. He had just tied his career high against Maryland, and then he wasn't able to play in the next game. So they certainly miss him on the offensive end, definitely, and they miss his shooting ability. But getting him back with about 5 games to go now is definitely key, and they're going to need him going forward.
All right, well, Ohio State's next game is at Michigan, and you will be there. Yeah. Tell the folks where they can find you on social media, and give yourself a little plug time here.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. Twitter handle's Tim Shoemaker. It's not real difficult to remember, and of course 11 Warriors is on Twitter too. It's at 11W. You can follow us for everything Ohio State, for football, basketball, recruiting, all that jazz, and it's a pretty good way if you're an Ohio State fan to get all of your fix. So encourage you to check it out if you are unfamiliar with it.
And of course, Tim is a Lantern alum. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's good to have him back in the studio. So thanks for coming out. Yeah. We appreciate your time, and be sure to follow him on Twitter and give us a follow at Lantern TV on Twitter for all your Ohio State hoops news in the coming weeks as we get into crunch time. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.